Hi, I am Cindy Mallett, and I chose to do my phonetics unit on the moon. It's for fourth grade. I have listed the TEKS for language arts, math, science, and social studies. And the literature I chose, the fiction choices were the Oxford Book of Story Poems by Michael Harrison and Christopher Stewart Clark, Catching the Moon by Molly Goldberg, If You Decide to Go to the Moon by Faith McNulty, When the Moon is Full by Penny Pollock. The nonfiction choices were Science Adventures, The Moon by Helen Carey and Judith Greenberg, Does the Moon Change Shape by Mish Goldish, The Best Book of the Moon by Ian Graham, What is the Moon Made of by Donna Bowman, The Moon Book by Gail Gibbons, A True Book, The Moon by Alison Lassiere, and my science notebook, The Moon by Martine Tedesco. I chose 10 activities that I thought were really good. I had to narrow it down to 3 for my lesson plans. So these are the ones that I chose. The first lesson plan is for language arts. I titled it Moon Man Matters. The topic is on writing letters. Students will be led and instructed in the skills of reading comprehension and letter writing, which will include date, salutation, paragraph, and closing. I would begin the class by leading a mini discussion by asking the class if anyone has ever heard of the man in the moon. And I would ask, do you believe there is a man living on the moon? Why or why not? Then I would read the book, Catching the Moon by Molly Goldberg. Reflecting on the story, I would begin a class discussion by asking several questions just to check for reading comprehension. And then I would divide the students into small groups of 3 to discuss personal current issues of today that concern them. And in their moon journals, I would have them write a personal letter to the man in the moon, which they would present a concern or ask the moon something or show appreciation about the moon. Then the letter writing would be assessed by the teacher on the basis of accurate format, grammar, and spelling. My math lesson that I came up with, I titled this lesson Moon's Mystical Multiplication. So the topic, of course, is multiplication. I would lead students and instruct them in the skills of weighing objects and in multiplication. I would utilize the book, My Science Notebook, The Moon by Martine Tedesco, and What is the Moon Made of by Donna Bowman. And I would also need an overhead projector. Students will use charts that I would develop for them to help them calculate different weights of things on the Earth versus the Moon. And I would give them some small scales to use for doing that. I began by leading a little discussion which would include a couple of questions. Do you think that you weigh the same on the moon as you do on the Earth? And ask them why and why not, just to get them thinking in that direction. Then I would read from my science notebook, The Moon, to demonstrate how to formulate calculations for weight on the moon. I would also read from What is the Moon Made of to show a formula for calculating what a bicycle trip from the Earth to the moon would look like, and so the kids could kind of figure out how long that would take. Then I would give them charts to document the weight of objects. They would be paired into groups of 2, and we use small scales to determine weight of designated objects in the classroom. Students will then work individually to calculate the weight of objects and how much they would weigh on the moon. Then the last one that I chose to do a lesson plan is on gravity. It's a science lesson plan. I titled this one Magnetic Moon. Students will be shown the effect of gravity as a force keeping the moon in place in outer space and why it is important to the Earth. The teacher would need a globe, a string, and a round, bumpy rock. Students would need an apple, a string, and access to classroom computers. I would begin the class with a demonstration of gravity by tying a string around the globe and on the other end tie a round rock. While holding out the rock, I would explain that the string represents gravity while It keeps the rock, which represents the moon, close to the earth. Then I would divide the class up into pairs after reading from my science notebook, The Moon. Each pair will receive an apple and a string. Teacher will explain that the apples represent the moon and the string represents gravity. The pair will attach the string tightly to the apple while holding the string. Each will take a turn at spinning around, holding the string close to their body, which represents the earth, and observing what the apple does. Students will gather moon data about gravity from internet resources. Then they will share with the class the research that they've gathered. Students will be assessed by their participation in their research. And that's all. Thank you.